All right, let's talk about something we've all experienced, but maybe we've got it all wrong. I'm talking about fever. Most of us, we see it as the enemy, right? Something to be fought off as fast as possible. But what if the science tells a completely different and way more fascinating story? Let's get into it. I mean, really think about it. What if that rising temperature, those chills, all that discomfort, what if it's not your body malfunctioning at all? What if it's actually this incredibly sophisticated ancient defense system just kicking into high gear? And if that's true, what if by fighting it, we're actually just getting in our own way?
Okay, so first, let's tackle the common belief. The one that has us all reaching for the medicine cabinet at the first sign of a high temperature. This is the big myth: fever as the enemy. This idea is so deeply ingrained in us that it actually has a name. Get this. It's called fever phobia. It's that automatic reflex, right? You see a high number, you treat it. No questions asked. And for a long time, that's kind of how the medical world saw it too, as a problem to be solved, not a process to understand. And look, to be fair, the reasons for fighting a fever seem totally logical on the surface. First up, comfort. I mean, who likes feeling feverish and awful? Nobody. Then, from a medical standpoint, especially for really sick patients, the idea is to lower the body's metabolic rate. And of course, the big one, when it comes to kids, there's that powerful fear of complications. So yeah, these are the big reasons we reach for those fever reducers. But this is where the story takes a really fascinating turn. Because the reality, a fever isn't a mistake. Not even close. It's actually an ancient ally, a defense strategy that our bodies have been perfecting for millions of years. And believe it or not, this idea that fever might actually be good for us, it's not new at all. Let's go way back to the late 1800s. There was this surgeon, Dr. William Coley, and he noticed something absolutely incredible. He saw that some of his cancer patients who got nasty, feverish infections, well, sometimes their tumors would just shrink or even vanish. He was so convinced by this that he created something called Coley's toxins, basically a cocktail of bacteria designed to give people a fever on purpose to treat their cancer. Today, we see him as a pioneer of immunotherapy. Amazing, right? So here's the most crucial thing to understand. A fever, the technical term is pyrexia. It's not your body's thermostat going haywire. It's the exact opposite. It is a deliberate, controlled action. Your brain's command center, the hypothalamus, gets a message that there's a threat, and it intentionally cranks up the body's thermostat. It's exactly like you turning up the heat in your house to deal with an intruder. And how does this happen? Well, it's this beautifully coordinated two-step process. First, you've got your frontline immune cells. Think of them as the security guards, the macrophages. They spot an invader and they start sounding the alarm by releasing these chemical signals called pyrogenic cytokines. Then, step two, these signals race through your bloodstream all the way to the hypothalamus in your brain with one clear message. Hey, we've got a problem down here. Time to turn up the heat? So why go to all this trouble? Why turn up the heat? Because a fever gives your immune system actual superpowers. Seriously, it's a massive upgrade. You get more of your shock troops, these cells called neutrophils, rushing to the site of the infection. Your natural killer cells get better at their job. Phagocytosis, which is literally your immune cells eating the bad guys, gets a huge boost. Everything just moves faster and communicates better. It's a total system-wide mobilization. And the benefits are like a two-for-one deal. First, it's a direct attack on the invaders. See, most of the bacteria and viruses that make us sick, they love our normal body temperature. It's their happy place. So when you crank the heat up to around 40 degrees Celsius, you're making life miserable for them, slowing down their ability to multiply. And second, it actually makes our other weapons more powerful. That's right, research shows that a lot of common antibiotics work even better when your body has a fever. Okay, so if fever is so helpful, what happens when we try to shut it down? This is where we get to the big plot twist of our story. And the evidence is, frankly, startling, especially when we look at one of the most dangerous conditions out there, sepsis. I'm just going to read this quote from the research, and I want you to let it sink in. Attempts to lower the temperature in patients with sepsis are associated with increased mortality. Wow. Just let that sit for a second. We're talking about a direct link found in multiple studies. It's powerful, it's completely counterintuitive, and it suggests that our instinct to fix the fever might actually be making things much, much worse. Now, okay, context here is absolutely everything. The crucial question is there an infection? For a critically ill patient who doesn't have an infection, yeah, a fever can be a bad sign. But for a septic patient, someone fighting a massive life-threatening infection, the data points in the complete opposite direction. A high-grade fever is consistently linked with a lower chance of dying. Let me say that again. The fever is associated with survival. It's part of the solution, not the problem. So, that leads to the really obvious next question, right? If fever is actually protective in sepsis, what are the real-world consequences when we try to suppress it? What does the data actually say about forcing that temperature down?
Okay, you might want to brace yourself for this next number because it's pretty wild. A huge meta-analysis looked at what happens when we give fever-reducing treatments to septic patients in the ICU. After all that effort, all those drugs and cooling blankets, what was the payoff? The average temperature reduction was negative 0.38 degrees Celsius, less than half a degree. That's it, a tiny, tiny change. We are taking a potentially huge risk for an incredibly small reward.
And the data on that risk just keeps piling up. It's remarkably consistent. The FACE study, it found that using antipyretics was independently linked with an increased risk of dying within 28 days for septic patients. Another massive study, we're talking over 15,000 ICU patients, found zero benefit and suggested that some methods, like external cooling, might even be harmful. Another huge analysis confirmed it again. These treatments do not reduce mortality. The evidence is all pointing in the same clear direction.
So, what do we do with all this information? Well, it calls for a complete rethink of our strategy. It's time for a new playbook, a smarter way to manage fever based on what the evidence is actually telling us.
And this new approach has a name. It's called permissive hyperthermia, and it's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Instead of fighting the heat, we permit it. We let the body get hot. We allow it to launch its own natural, powerful, fever-driven defense, and we stay out of the way, unless it becomes absolutely necessary to step in.
So this gives us a really practical guide. If a patient's temperature is low, say under 37 degrees, we should probably warm them up. But in that target zone for fighting sepsis, between 38 and 40 degrees Celsius, the new rule is simple. Permit the fever. Just let the body do its thing. It's only when the temperature gets really extreme, pushing past 40 degrees, that we even consider stepping in. And when we do, the whole goal has changed. And this right here is the fundamental shift in thinking. The new goal isn't just chasing a number on a thermometer. It's not about frantically trying to get the body back to a normal 37 degrees. The goal is now to improve the patient's comfort and to head off any potential complications from truly extreme temperatures. We're shifting from a temperature-focused goal to a patient-focused one. It's a huge difference.
So, if there's one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. When your body is in a serious fight, like with sepsis, a fever is not a side effect. It is not a bug in your system. It is a core feature. It's a weapon perfected over millions of years of evolution, designed to help you win.
And that really leaves us with one final powerful question to think about. Is fever a destructive fire that we need to extinguish at all costs? Or is it a furnace where that intense heat is actually forging the very weapons our body needs to win the fight? The evidence, more and more, is suggesting it's time we learn to respect the furnace. Thanks for joining me.